All right, beautiful. So
Yeah.
I've hit record. So first of all, Alwyn, I just want to thank you for taking the time, coming on, sharing your thoughts, and it's going to be really fun to conversate with you. So one thing I just want to mention off the bat is you, Alwyn, you taught me like a while back. I think back at the Pro restaurant when we had the meetings there about investing, and used to talk to me about a lot about skin in the game, getting in there. And I actually did. And I want to thank you because, you know, um, it was good hearing that when I first came in. I was a bit shy and reserved. And so, yeah, so with that being said, thanks for taking the time, Alwyn. So if you can talk to me a bit about your background, your education, and just a bit about yourself.
So, just to give a perspective, one, thanks for having me. And let me mention that way back in 2013, all the way through the times in 2000 onwards, when we had these meetups at Pearl, I used to give $1 in Bitcoin to anybody who first time downloaded a wallet. And the value of that dollar for some people uh, is in the range of couple of hundred
That's pretty incredible.
in today's prices. Yeah, and and people used to wonder why I do it. Well, the fact that a person who does not have any idea coming all the way to a Bitcoin meetup and not even knowing how to use a wallet or use the network or the blockchain to transact
Yeah.
was not something that the that I was very comfortable with, and that's how I started off. And I don't do it anymore because a lot of people now have and they know how to go to an ATM or Bitcoin ATM and stuff. It's much more easily available. But let me tell you, I spoke to a Gisan some time back, and 2012, people used to give one Bitcoin to people who downloaded a wallet because the price of a Bitcoin in 2011 and 12 was like 30 cents.
Incredible.
So just telling you that if people think that let's say, for example, $1 invested in the beginning of the last decade, it was $90,000 at the end of the decade. So if you think that that kind of a momentum in waves is not going to be around, then amounts, then you have to rethink, because although the prices do correct, and people looking at it today are like, oh, it's went to 3,500 US, and now it's at 13,000 Canadian, and used to be 20 cents, guys. It used to be nothing. And if you're not convinced that something like this is going all the way up with the corrections in the way and with a lot of hardships, then you need to rework your thinking about why some of us are here and stuck to this space and understand it in this way. So yeah,
Yeah.
so going back to your question, yeah. So yeah, what brought you here, and how did it all begin for me, right?
Yep.
So
Exactly.
so I'd like to mention that although specifically I heard about Bitcoin in 2013 when the Cyprus issue took place, where you had a failure country, and a kind of a bailout done by its government, whereby they took from a few big banks in Cyprus. They took everybody's money who had $100,000 or above, and that was one of their strategies for bailing the country out to pay off the debts. And a lot of people like me have been following these kind of events regards to the financial system for many years, many years, not just 2008, but way back in time when we first got high-speed internet, and I was able to figure out the money system and stuff. And the big question arose in our minds as to what is the exact money system. And I'd like to point out now today, in the circumstances under which this interview is taking place, that COVID-19 has opened the eyes of a lot of people today to exactly what we were open to in those days, as to, hey, where's all these billions of dollars coming from? They've just got created by the governments. Is it so easy for them to do it? I mean, nobody, a lot of people did not know how simple it is for governments to just go on and say, create, fiat, let it be, and the money comes in. And
Yeah, you're right. It's like a lot of people, like it's been happening for a while, but the masses were not awake or really interested in knowing. But I think you've identified two things, that as there's these events, there's these resolutions through just printing a lot of money, and I guess this is kind of happening again with COVID, right? That's kind of the distinctions you're making, right?
exactly. So the point is, this financial system and similar systems that have existed in the past, to the extent that they are created to have issues, and they don't work forever. And there are resets that take place continuously. And this is known to a lot of people. The only problem is, once you know it, what are you going to do to fix it?
Yep.
And therefore, there was this group of people who were called the cyberpunks and subsequently the cypherpunks, because they believed that they could use cryptography to solve the issues. Now, I didn't know that much about the existence of these people, but we had a similar ethos, and we would use whatever was available in various ways. And so you had the Occupy movements and other things that were taking place. But it was very difficult to fight back against a system that had the option to just take you off and put you in jail, right? So uh, when one of those cypherpunks, which is Satoshi Nakamoto, which could be a group of people or an individual, found something that worked, but not just overnight, but with all the technological advances made by those groups of cypherpunks over time, and put together what was the white paper and the eventual Bitcoin network to come to pass. Uh, I don't think everybody heard of Bitcoin bang in 2009, because that's when it began, 3rd of Jan 2009, right? But slowly, as the things progressed, and more people got attracted and found that this thing actually works as money. There's no double spending, etc. Somewhere in 2013, when this issue took place with Cyprus, the price of Bitcoin went to $260, and it was widely publicized in the newspapers at that time. And that's when I first heard about Bitcoin. Once you hear about it, then it's a different game. I mean, ever since then till now, I have been like completely immersed in with the space. So
Totally.
that's the how I began, right? So
Totally. And and it's funny
uh,
because you said one thing. You said once you learn about this this way of doing things, you are instantly intrigued, and
right,
right, and as you learn more, you're more intrigued. And then I think what happens is, this is an idea that's bigger than every single person, and it's because everybody can relate to it in a different way, right? So that's what I think is so powerful. And so I'm gonna hit record again. Sorry about that. I pressed stop by accident. But you were talking about three of your
top three
you find
coins, yeah.
top three coins, and then you were talking about Bitcoin, and then you were talking about a friend of yours that talked about Bitcoin 2.0, which happened to end up
Right.
being Ethereum, right?
Right. So the first top three I will repeat are Bitcoin, Bitcoin, and Bitcoin.
Okay.
And now about the rest. So you gotta get some Bitcoin to start with. So about the rest, I went back in time to be able to tell you about Ethereum coming to pass. And the difference between the Bitcoin type coins and Ethereum was that the Bitcoin was proof of work, and similar Bitcoin networks like Litecoin, etc., were created. And what Ethereum brought was the ability to do contracts on the blockchain. And that ended up what I would call as Bitcoin 2.0, or we could call it version 2 of the blockchain. Now, you did have version 1.5 where proof of stake type of coins came in, and you had Dash like coins which had masternode concepts, etc. But there was no ability other than voting and other things to be able to put contracts on the blockchain.
Yeah.
With Ethereum, a completely new thing came to pass, and under Ethereum, you have all these different solutions from storage to Ripio credit to 0x and so many other things that have taken place. So that would be 2.0. Now, are you going to ask me which coin to buy from this list? Uh, I would definitely say Ethereum definitely stands as one of those. But you have to understand that Ethereum today has reached a stage where all of the 2.0 and its ilk are suffering from the sexy problem, as Tufi puts it. That is, uh, scalability, interoperability is a problem. But sexy goes as security, efficiency, confidentiality, scalability, and interoperability. So
Yes, I remember that.
scalability, interoperability, and efficiency are missing because of inherent problems that come with the way the blockchains work. And to solve that, you have coins like Cosmos and I forget the one that Gavin Wood was bringing in, Polkadot and others, which are trying to solve this. Now, those would again be, I would call them the 3.0 sort of evolution or the wave of the blockchain. And I would recommend people to look into those because they have a definite solution that they are bringing to this current scenario. At the same time, what you have to understand is that's not where it's going to stop. You're going to see, like I said, the flying car, you're going to see more and more requirements for different sort of things. And every time something comes in, it builds a whole new dimension into that, just like Ethereum did when it brought in contracts. Now,
So,
one of the
so
coins that,
I just want to say, so from an OV perspective, it's almost like there's going to be a lot of innovation within the space, a lot of disruption within the space, a lot of winners and losers. But there's kind of this overarching premise, which is like if you're thirsty, whether it's a tea or water or a drink, you know, they're all going to work to relieve your thirst. So they're all valid, and it's kind of, it's a simple analogy, but it's kind of like, there's many different products and a lot of building going on, and even though some will uh, you know bump higher, become more important, you know, out of this ecosystem is going to be the future. In essence, that's kind of what I'm hearing. Am I correct?
well, definitely. And if you look at just the last 2 months about how badly everything corrected, including this ecosystem, which was the first thing to bounce back, um,
Yeah.
the blockchain, the bitcoins. Today, we're actually looking at slight profit over the bounce back and the past status. So you're going to see towards the halvening, and like I said, maybe corrections, but 1 year after the halvening, you're going to see a lot. And other than the ones that I mentioned there, I didn't specifically mention coins, but I'd like to bring in the chain link type of solutions where you need some kind of an oracle to be able to definitely mention into the blockchain whether this or that actually took place, or the various ways in which what happens in the natural world gets conveyed into the blockchain. So those solutions have a dimension of their own. So a bit like having the cars which never had steering wheels to the manual cars, to the automatic cars, to the driverless cars, to the battery cars, to the flying cars, with all those different types of options that are going to come. So,
Yep.
I mean, I'm just saying that, for you to say, tell me which coin, Allwyn, because you just want to make $1 million, buy a Bitcoin, hold it till 2029 and take your 1 million and go. If that's all you want, I'm just saying, I mean, at the end, again, not investment advice, but that would be the easy path. But
Yeah. And I'm glad,
the kind
that
of,
I'm glad that we're not building this video on exactly what you said, because, when I go on YouTube, and I mean, even just my viewing habits have changed in the last 5 years, where I consume a lot of YouTube and not traditional. So things do change. And once they change, you never look back. You just, if you see the value, you're just, you're converted. But, I'm glad, just going back to what you're saying, I'm glad we're not here talking about, hey, buy this coin, you're going to make a lot of quick money. Because there's a lot of videos out there doing that. I guess we're more touching on, why we feel this is, a powerful, genuine technology that's going to create value, and a lot of companies that jump on this and find solutions are going to be more efficient and be able to be more autonomous. And no matter how, from where the value comes, if you create good things, value comes as a byproduct, right?
exactly. And that's, I'd like to take you up on that point one. 600 years ago, this, I mean, not that this conversation would have happened the way it is at all, but
Yeah.
your ancestors would be speaking Spanish and mine would be speaking Konkani. Today, we are speaking English across the technology that exists. But if that's all the young people have is the language of English, it's not going to help, because to be able to make come to pass what I just described in terms of the future, a lot of people are going to have to learn coding. There's going to be a huge need for coders of different levels, and the need for people to go up there, spin up those Linux servers up there, bring about all those solutions, get into teams, build everything, just like the Ethereum team did. They asked for some Bitcoin, people send them Bitcoin, they send back JSON files with the, actually at that time I didn't know what, but apparently it held the ether that was given to you in return for your Bitcoin, and they made $18 million in Bitcoin, and the price went down to half, and with 9 million they went to Zug and created Ethereum. So what I'm trying to
Incredible.
say is, okay,
Incredible.
yeah, what I'm trying to say is, there's been now blockchain IPOs and ICOs again, which have garnered far more amounts and created nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not interested in knowing the money factor or the price that Bitcoin goes to. What I'm interested in is not about fiat. I don't care what is $1 million. I don't want to know about the money system. I want value for the planet. And if that value has to come, it's not just going to be the English language.
That's
You've
right.
got to learn to take those machines and create value. Machines are what is making this interview happen today under the COVID circumstances. Machines that's going to be able things. It's a lot of blockchain, a lot of AI, and a lot of solutions that are already there that need to be studied, need to be used, and need to be incorporated. And for me to specifically say this coin versus that coin, I would say, come, let's study it, and then we'll make a very integrated call, like you and me did on the library tool, and the other one. I don't want to give token names. I want to give the idea and the ethos and the understanding before a person makes that call. Otherwise, it's like saying, when I once told a guy, if somebody from outside Canada hears Canadian Tire, they're going to think it's a tire company. That
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to right? That doesn't make sense to invest into something just because you heard a name, right? So you got to understand what it does, and then you got to make the analysis. So yeah, that's my advice in terms of the overall scenarios in terms of investment or understanding and concepts and the future and stuff. So
Hey,
yeah.
I want to go back to something you said, and just dive deep on it. So, because now you're touching on the future and the past, and then you said how, for example, my native tongue is Latin, and yours is, I can't remember what you said, but it's different than Latin, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, Konkani.
Konkani.
Konkani, yeah, yeah.
Konkani. So, and then, um, so talk to me a little bit about this, because now you're talking about value, and creating things that have a long lasting impactful effect are going to generate money, fiat, Bitcoin, whatever it is that is going to allow you to have purchasing power, whatever that medium is. And then you said something really cool, which reminded me of binary language, because you're saying how everything's moving towards one language. So perhaps binary is that language where everybody could understand it, right? Code, right?
Yes, that's the future. That's where Ahmed Taki says we need to have minimum millions and millions of coders, and people come out into schools and are not immediately put into coding. How do you think the blockchain solutions and the AI solutions and all of this machines that are going to be able to enhance human life are going to have better and better dimensions? Unless and until we are able to tackle what is going to come. And when I say what is going to come, you're not there's a pretty good reason that blockchains did not exist in the 70s is because the kind of requirements in terms of infrastructure and speeds on the internet and hardwares and other things in the internet itself did not exist. But today, if you're saying the Bitcoin has existed and the cypherpunks were able to do it, there's stuff we're going to be able to do to tackle the future dimensions of 5G and other things. We're going to have entire blockchains on your phone, and interoperability is going to be right there with all those blockchains, right? I'm just saying, I'm not saying that's the exact way it should be, but when you have solutions like Siacoin and others that are going to be able to store things across hard disks and retrieve them with security that is of a different dimension altogether, you're going to see entire industries of IT security disappearing simply because uh, TCP/IP was not built with sexy in mind. And once you have sexy, if you build TCP/IP inside of blockchains, or you build stuff like Toda, which we see right here in Toronto, or the Hedera Hashgraph sort of solutions, then you've already destroyed an entire industry of IT security, because the security is inherent through the blockchain-esque solutions that are going to come out. And along with that, you've got the money which is disrupted, the value which is disrupted, and
Yep.
the AI components that are going to come. Who's going to code all this? Is it going to be you and me talking in the English language alone? I mean, forget
That's
the
right.
fact that it's Latino to Cockney was not going to work. English work. But that's because we are human beings talking. But you're going to have those machines to do stuff, right? You need coding, and you need the ability to get people to think code right from the get-go at early ages to be able to develop a better and better vision of the future. So that's my way of thinking. So maybe I'm wrong. So I'm just putting it out there. So yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. And it's really special. I hope later on, people that young talented folks, ambitious, passionate folks, or even folks that are at the crossroads looking to see where their next place is going to be, where they feel they can provide some value, are listening to this, because I mean, this is some amazing insight. It is where the puck is going to be and not where it is. And that's pretty special. And then we have like this scenario right now, where if you get in right now and you start to learn, and it's not even, at least if um, how things work, you can be part of the solution, even if you're not the most technical person that can actually create the code. And there's so many different ways that you can find value, but I guess you need to start to get yourself familiar and build some knowledge, and build your own opinion, but see where things are going, so you can be part of the solution, and you and your family can be well off, right? By being
No,
in the
and
right place.
that I'd like to repoint you, and a lot of people want to the times when everybody thought that to be able to get into the Bitcoin, investment investment bandwagon, all you need to do is go on to Mount Gox and buy the Bitcoin. And then no need to understand anything technical, nothing about the ledger. So even if you and your family just want to benefit about the basic investment aspect of this new dimension of technology, you need to be a little more smarter as to what the blockchain is and stuff which we at Bitcoin Bay have continuously and consistently given for free. Even the videos and the PowerPoints are available, or we keep talking about it at every one of our meetups. So if people are just not going to want to learn even the stuff that is free, how are they going to mitigate the risk when Quadriga happens or Mt. Gox happens? How many people that you talk of today in a restaurant, you go and say, have you heard about Bitcoin? Will say yes now, not no. But
That's
if you
right.
ask them, how are you going to get it? Oh yeah, I go onto this exchange and I put my money and I'm going to get it. That's it. That's all they're going to say, right? That's risk, right?
Yeah, and you know what?
So
And everything carries an inherited risk because I mean we're human beings, right? Like we're risky, unpredictable creatures, and I think that's why forecasting is so difficult, right? Because we're human beings with, you know, we walk around with this rationality and we're super uber sophisticated, but the reality is we have a lot of primate, very emotional core instincts, so we're highly unpredictable, right? And but hey, you know, I hate to go back down memory lane because there's something I really wanted to know, and I think as we went through, I failed to ask you, so I have to go back and then I'll come back to where we are. But you mentioned Bitcoin Bay, right? How was Bitcoin Bay born? How was the group formed? Just if we can go back, I would really want to
so
know that from you.
so yeah. So when I first got into Bitcoin in 2013, I was going crazy trying to get hold of my first Bitcoin, because in those days there was no ATMs and nothing available. So I found a way in which I would go to my dollar shop and buy this particular type of gaming token that I had to then go online into some gaming site and get hold of my Bitcoin. And that was the first thing I did, after which I went into mining. And then I was looking around and I found the whole community of Bitcoiners in Toronto, which was D'Orio and the Charlotte Street meetup and everything that was happening there.
Yeah,
And I believe by then, somewhere around then, Vitalik had met Anthony at the Poppers Pub, and he was working for the Bitcoin magazine and had given him the idea of Ethereum to come to pass. That was early days. But there was a gentleman named Sunny Ray who would be traveling around the world, including to Bombay and various places, and go and talk about Bitcoin. I know people who've come back from Bombay to Toronto and tell me about Sunny Ray, and I tell him, that's the guy right here. So he's the Uno coin and whatever. Now, Sunny decided, let's have another meetup, and he called us all one day to meet, and we ended up at the Starbucks at the near Bay Street. And so we decided, hey, let's all get ourselves a name. I'm like, okay, we are on Bay Street. Let's call ourselves Bitcoin Bay, and that's how Bitcoin Bay was born in 2014 or 14ish. And the meetups happened. I don't think at that time it was every 2 weeks, but it was every Saturday or something like that, and continued into 2014, 15, and then there was the boom and the bust of those times and the halvening.
oh
And then
yeah,
the Bitcoin meetup for Bay Meetup went on with Antoine towards Queen Street, and then moved to Pearl King for the longest time.
yeah.
And that's when the boom happened, and we started taking the basic. I started taking the lectures at the top, repeatedly telling people, teaching how the blockchain works, which was pretty boring because it's pretty say come again till you get it, and the people would come again till they got it. So and those were great days. I mean, 2016 with Mana, Perking and stuff. And then as time went by, I guess we've grown and we've taken an office, Bitcoin Bay Incorporated. We got Gaurav. It was around. Everybody, took different dimensions. I've taken a step back. Guru no longer prominently, and still lead all of you guys doing such wonderful job. So yeah, I mean, it's evolution, and here we are
Listen,
discussing Bitcoin and Bitcoin Bay.
that's beautiful, and it is a beautiful evolution, and so you know, it's a beautiful evolution because it's grassroots driven. It's community driven, it's authentic, and it was born in a very genuine way. So there's a lot of companies that are, very mechanically constructed to serve a very specific purpose, and they come off as very genuine. But the reality is, so I work in advertising, and I know that we construct these genuine realities for people to follow, and but this was a real this was a real like organism that grew on its own, and it's flourishing into this beautiful flower, or a cherry tomato tree, whatever you want to call it. It's very organic and beautiful. And that's amazing how the name just came out of something as visceral as, hey, we're here on Bay and we're talking Bitcoin, so Bitcoin Bay, right?
Well, at that time, everything was Bitcoin. I said that time the word blockchain never existed. So every company that was formed would be a coin kite, or it would be a coin guru, or a Bitcoin bay, or a Bitcoin decentral, when he dropped the word Bitcoin later.
Yeah.
And you'd have the word bit something or coin something. And then when the word blockchain came, you'd have all these chains, say, for block hack. And so you, by the very name of the company, you can even know as to whether it was pre or post 2014-ish, because
That's interesting.
and that's what happened one day. I remember one of those exhibitions recently in 2017, this girl coming up to us and saying, who calls themselves Bitcoin Bay? And I'm like, yeah, if you know the story, you'd make that choice to keep the name Bitcoin
It's like one day you'll
or
find out,
not
young one.
in your yeah. So yeah, that was fun too. I mean, a lot of people, you don't get bank accounts because you have the word Bitcoin in your company name, and all the struggles that come in. It's so much more easier to just call yourself uh, block or chain or something.
Yeah. That's awesome. Listen, I had to bring it all the way back because I would have really regretted not having known what the genuine story was behind how Bitcoin Bay came to be. And so now let's bring it back to the future. So, so now Bitcoin Bay is more than just a community meetup. So talk to me a bit about Bitcoin Bay itself. I know that it's starting to provide solutions for companies or startups that are starting to foresee issues, and maybe blockchain can solve them. So there's so many angles to Bitcoin Bay. So talk to me a little bit about Bitcoin Bay itself now, and all that good stuff.
So the very explanation I gave you about how things evolved from the beginning with the proof of work blockchain to where it is now and what we are doing, you've got a lot of blockchain, Bitcoin solution companies today, and it's my privilege to mention Atomic Loans and DeFi Toronto and others that exist, that we all continue, like Toda, Decentral, that we can continue to synergize with.
Yeah.
So Bitcoin Bay continues to bring value in different ways to the entire ecosystem. We've got a bi-weekly meetups that we continue to take online even under the COVID circumstances. We've got
Yeah.
a block hack, which the latest one had to be set back because of COVID, but
Yeah.
one of the best in-class block hackathons that take place for free, literally, in Toronto. And you've got opportunities that you could just have to come in, form your groups and start hacking, right? So that's one. And then we've got our BitAngels partnership, where we are trying to get people who have ideas and got startups and got proof of concepts to come there and showcase themselves in front of wealthy investors who are looking to invest into solutions to be able to synergize. So we've got different aspects of solutions that Bitcoin Bay now continues to evolve and bring to the table under the given circumstances. We've got Jerry working with the opt-in solution for creating a point of sale terminals that
Yep.
we could, when finalized, bring out as a solution to the world. So there are different aspects, and we continue to evolve, and we have different ways of synergizing depending on the evolutions. So when you've got fantastic solutions like what DeFi and Toronto and Victor brings in, and all the various meetups and dimensions that they're going to delve into full time. The question for me would be, with all the financial background, etc., wouldn't you be a perfect fit for DeFi? But if I only work in DeFi, who's going to look at library or Siacoin or everything else that I've already looked at in my life, that have already attracted me? I've built the labs, I've understood those various things. And I'm not saying that the others don't, but they've defined themselves in that way. And that's a fantastic thing to do in the given circumstances. Like I said, from coin and Bitcoin to block chain to DeFi to various things. But Bitcoin Bay is agnostic to these things. It's agnostic to the blockchains, it's agnostic to whatever comes, and we try to fit into everything that Bitcoin brings to the world. And we want to grow that way. And so that's the vision that we continue to have and want to synergize with and partner up with and continue to bring value to people, right from grassroots all the way to the top, right across the globe. And we've done that. We have our meetups running right across the globe.
That's a beautiful thing. You know what? You kind of lay that out pretty elegantly. And I think we're going to have to go back later on in a more specific discussion about, DeFi and library and Siacoin. Perhaps we can do another segment later on where you can tell us very specifically these three things, because these are things that are happening within the space that are very different, but are very, very amazing. Like they're pretty amazing.
They're very, very important too, because each of these, like Chainlink, like the interoperability, and like DeFi, are bringing in dimensions that are going to make humongous difference to the way things operate. And every time one dimension comes in, just like contracts came in with Ethereum, it takes billions and billions of value. I don't want to use the word dollars, but in comparison, it brings in crazy valuations. And you literally see billionaires being created out of nothing. I wish I had understood Bitcoin 2.0. I had no clue what Paul was trying to tell me. I was like, here's my $70. Oh man, those are different times, man.
Well, listen, you know what? We're gonna have to do a part 2, because I feel like there's a lot of things that like we're kicking up dust, like we're just literally kicking up dust here, but we haven't uncovered what's underneath the surface of so many things. But this is amazing, because like I've learned a lot just here talking with you about these things, and now I want to know more. But I am gonna have to grab you again and do a more specific dive. Now talking with so we're talking about the future, lots of value, lots of beautiful things. You can be a part of this, so what would you say is the best way to get in contact with you or Bitcoin Bay, to contribute, to volunteer, to build, to look for consultatory services? What's the best way to get at you, Allwyn?
So my best suggestion to get at anybody in Bitcoin Bay was to first go to our website, bitcoinbay.ca. And in my case, it's Allwyn, Allwyn, at bitcoinbay.ca. Just like I believe yours is Vaughn and Edward and others have Gaurav at bitcoinbay.ca. So that's one way. Yep. The other is to go to meetup.com and put in Bitcoin space Bay, and you'll see ours is the largest, one of the largest in the world. We've got more than 3,500 members in just one of our meetups. And we did start off various meetups in Dubai, Argentina, Kitchener-Waterloo, and we've got numbers there too. So if you join those local meetups of Bitcoin Bay, and then actually come to those meetups, you'll meet people like Mike and me at the various locations. Mike in Waterloo, or Antoine in Argentina, or me here in the meetups, and then you can converse with us one-on-one. And anytime you wanna, we have a humongous chunk of WhatsApp groups with the who's who of the blockchain that we could add you to.
Yep.
and you could just get in touch with us, and we'll put you in there, and you can network. So there's various ways to get in touch with us. That's not at all a problem. It's what you want to do and where we are going to channelize you in the beginning to get you up to speed, and then or if you're already up to speed, to see where we can help you either invest or get investors to invest into you, that you have to decide, and then come to us, and we're always there for you. So
Yeah, it's
just
amazing. That's great. That's great to know, and to know that Bitcoin Bay itself, does have skin in the game. I mean, this is not like some hypothesized marketing jargon to kind of put ourselves out there. Like if you go back and you see the timeline, you'll see that Bitcoin Bay has been there from a grassroots level, and it's amazing that anybody can come in and ask, volunteer, join, or seek help, and that's incredible, Allwyn. And I want to say thank you, because when I met you back in the days at Pearl King, which was maybe, wow, it's like 2015, 16. I listened to you because you said, hey, you don't have to put a lot, just kind of get in, if you want to understand, you have to have some stake in it. And I felt like that was important. Like, have some stake in it, tinker with it. You just, get into it at a practical, don't just pay lip service, but practice it and get good. And you can be a part of this, amazing, I mean, I don't know if I want to call it revolution, but this new change, right? So Allwyn, I want to thank you for your time, and I hope we get to do this again very soon.
thank you, Juan. Thank you for everything. Yes, and let's hope we can do this fast.